All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the DC Bit Chat series. My name is Prayas Neupane, and I support business retention and expansion efforts for the Washington, DC Economic Partnership. For those of you who don't know about Washington, DC Economic Partnership, our mission is to promote business opportunities throughout the district, to contribute to business retention and attraction activities. In partnership with the Office of the Deputy Mayor's Office of Planning and Economic Development, we support businesses and entrepreneurs looking to open, expand, and grow their business in DC through our programs and services focused on business development, education of the real estate market, as well as business opportunities. So we put together events like the one that you are participating on today. On behalf of the partnership and our partners at Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and Hive 2.0, I want to welcome you to our Bit Chat on connecting virtually digital and social strategies for marketing your business. Again, thank you for joining us today. We have such an exciting hour ahead of us with amazing insights from seasoned business owners. But before we begin, I wanted to cover a few housekeeping topics. So today's webinar is being recorded, so we will be able to share the link with you after the event is complete. Feel free to come back to the content yourself or share it with your colleagues. We are going to have some amazing discussions. And in addition to that, feel free to utilize the chat window to communicate with each other, share comments and thoughts, and share your businesses with us. But if you have any questions, utilize the Q&A. We will be selecting a few questions towards the end of the session for our panelists to answer. For those of you who are interested in closed captioning is available on today's session. If you would like to take advantage of that, you can just click the subtitles next to your Q&A. Now, just want to share a little bit about the DC Bit Chat series. The Summer Bit Chat series is the Washington, D.C. Economic Partnership signature workshop series that supports local businesses by providing expert advice, resources, and practical solutions. We bring together local and national experts on different topics, as well as local businesses who have experience and knowledge in different fields, but currently, given the COVID-19 environment that we're in, we're bringing businesses who have really navigated this properly to provide you with some expertise. This is our second workshop, and there's two more coming later in the month. Our next one is going to be on July 29th, which is going to be focused on mergers and acquisitions, and on August 19th, which is going to focus on crowdfunding. Registration is open for the July 29th session. So if you are interested in mergers and acquisitions, feel free to register. You can visit our website, the events page for that particular workshop. I do want to acknowledge our sponsors, without whom this event would not be possible. So Capital One and Office of the Deputy Mayors for Planning and Economic Development. Capital One has been a long-time partner of the DC Bit Chat series, providing support to allow us to put these kind of events together. We definitely value and appreciate their partnership. So thank you, Capital One. And of course, the Deputy Mayor's Office for Planning and Economic Development, who has been our primary partner for over 20 years now, as we put together some of the events to support the business community, from startup to established businesses that are looking to invest in our communities. Now, I would like to turn it over to one of our partners at Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for a quick welcome. Nicole, definitely appreciate all your partnership and the work that you do to support the business community. So over
Thank you, Faiz. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicole Quiroga, and I'm the president and CEO of the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Our chamber is 750 members strong. We have been around since 1976, and our mission is to impact positively the DC metro region economically by fostering and supporting our minority small businesses in ways they need to grow through technical assistance, training, networking, access to contacts, access to capital, access to contracts and anything they need along the way to be successful. It is with partnerships and through partnerships like this really that allows us to pull together our resources, which is so needed nowadays, and make sure that we affect change and keep businesses moving and supported so they can be successful, especially through times like these. So I do appreciate the partnership with WDCEP. Thank you so much, Bryce, and a big thank you to Keith. We're happy to be working with you.
All right. Well, thank you, Nicole. Now, I want to turn it over to Jess from Hive 2.0 to tell us a little bit about Hive 2.0.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, everybody, for collaborating to put on this amazing program. My name is Jess Randolph. I'm the Assistant Creative Director over at Arch Development in Ward 8. One of the many projects that we work on is a business development incubator called Hive 2.0. It's a co-working space in Anacostia, right in the thick of things in our community. I'm just, again, so happy to be here to just collaborate, and I'm excited to learn from all of these really great panelists. If anyone is in need of office space, we have some cheap office space, so feel free to reach out directly.
All right, well, thank you, Jess. Now to the exciting part, to our panelists. I'm sure everyone is looking forward to hearing from them. So thank you everyone for joining today. So just the format of the event today, Anthony will get us started with a brief presentation on digital and social strategies for marketing your business. And following the presentation, you'll be joined by Manny and Tanya for the powerhouse fireside chat for the rest of the session. So with that, I want to introduce Anthony F. Shaw. Anthony is an entrepreneur and pioneer in the field of digital and social media. He's built a team that helps world's leading companies connect with people today. So under his leadership, Social Driver has been named the 7th fastest growing marketing agency in the US. And Anthony was also named in Washington Business Journal's 40 Under 40. We are delighted, proud, and excited that Anthony calls Washington, D.C. home, and really excited to have him here today. Now with that, turning it over to you, Anthony. And I'm gonna unshare my screen so that you can share your screen, but let me know if you'd like me to share it back again.
Perfect, I will. I'll take control when it lets me. Great, here we go. Well, I am so thrilled to be with all of you today and just really appreciate the opportunity. I have to say at the beginning that thank you to the sponsors and thank you to WDCEP. Such a great organization. Preyas and Crystal and Chad and everybody over there do such great work. Your leader, Keith Sellers, is amazing. And when we started our business almost 10 years ago, WDCEP was a tremendous resource for us. So we're all really lucky to have you as part of our community. I also am just so excited to be with a couple of really amazing business leaders from the DC community today. Tanya Maynigo is founder and CEO of Kraft Kombucha. Many of us did not even know what that was a short time ago, the fermented tea that we call kombucha. And now it's a household name. We've all had it probably. And it, like many businesses, it was a hobby for her a couple decades ago. And now she's been a leader locally, but also in really helping to expand the kombucha category around the world because she educates followers of her brand about probiotics and fermentation and all of that. So she is with us today, along with her co-founder and mascot, Guinness the Boxer. I love that you have Boxer with you, taking a little nap there maybe. And then Manny Cosme is also with us today, another great business leader in the community, CEO and president of CFO Services Group, which he founded 8 years ago. I have been loving seeing his expertise featured by groups like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce recently around things like PPP and forgiveness, and he's been doing so much to educate the small business community. So we're lucky that he has taken time to be with us today because it's a busy time with all that PPP and stuff going on. So it's really fantastic. So we're going to dive in and talk a little bit about digital marketing strategies because as a small business owner myself, I know that it is really hard sometimes to figure out what to do and how to focus. So we have a really easy framework, sort of a 3-part framework that's going to help you figure out what marketing you're doing, what you should be doing. And then we're going to have a wonderful conversation with our fellow business owners today. So use the chat function and everything as we get into this. But I'm going to just start with something that you may or may not be familiar with. I'm not sure. I'm going to see. I ran across this advertising campaign not too long ago. It's a billboard. It says, made with a freshly cracked egg, with a picture of an egg McMuffin. And I just want to ask you, how many of you think this is true? Feel free to use the chat or however we want to do it. How many of you think that this is true, that this is made with a freshly cracked egg? Give you a second just to see here. I'm seeing things like no way coming through and lies. When I saw this for the first time, I have to admit, I was looking to see if there was like an asterisk in fine print. Is freshly cracked like a patented process that McDonald's, that stands for something? Like there has to be a trick here. And this is what lots of people think. I mean, pretty much everybody's saying, I don't think, a long time ago, no. Aha, but here we go. Somebody says, I worked at McDonald's and it used to be true. And I usually get one person in the room who either worked there or they know somebody who worked there. And that's the closest thing we have to a correct answer today, because this is the truth. If you go to McDonald's right now, they actually get eggs delivered and they crack them into these little molds. And for that one egg sandwich, you actually do get a freshly cracked egg. It's the truth. But it just doesn't seem true, does it? Even though it is. And this is something that I find really fascinating. It's a trick a little bit because the other egg sandwiches are reconstituted eggs, so it's really only the one sandwich. But if you look out on social media, this campaign's been going on for years, and we see people saying things like, a freshly cracked egg at McDonald's is such a lie. That commercial's misleading. And I want you to think about this. Imagine spending millions of dollars on a marketing campaign only to make your customers think you're lying and make them more angry with you for lying at them, even though you're telling the truth. Wouldn't that just be a terrible way to spend your money in marketing? Well, that's kind of what's happening here. So it's a bit of an eye-opener. And we can spend lots of money on marketing, right? Advertisers will take our dollars, or folks who have advertising space will take our dollars. This is Times Square, right? The most expensive place to interrupt people with your advertising message. Of course, it probably doesn't look quite like that today. This picture's a while ago, there's fewer people and more masks going on there. But something that's probably the same is if we zoom in and we see directly what's happening at the bottom, we see this guy. I don't know if you can tell in the picture, but he's looking down at his phone. He's not paying attention to all those ads. He's on Snapchat, he's on TikTok, he's texting his friend, maybe he's on Yelp saying, what's the best place to eat in Times Square? Of course, the answer is, don't eat in Times Square. Terrible places there. But what he's not doing is paying attention to all those ads. So this is a reminder for all of us business owners and marketers. In today's world, you can be really bright, but it does not mean that people will see you. You can be really loud, but it doesn't mean that people will hear you. And you can be really honest. You can tell the truth, and it doesn't mean people will believe you. We all know this, right? Seeing what's happening around health information online. You can tell the truth, you can use data, people don't necessarily believe you. So what do we do when we're marketers? We really have to think about things differently in the 2020s than we used to. And so that's what we want to talk about today. And I think that I go back to the story that I learned years ago. I worked as a meteorologist before my social driver days. I wasn't the meteorologist. I worked for a meteorologist. I was an intern at a news station. And the meteorologist told us, he showed us lightning. And he said, when lightning strikes, where does that energy come from? And we all said, well, I don't know. It looks like it's coming from up here or down, right? Like up in the clouds or up in the sky. And he said, wrong. It's actually the other way around. What do you mean? He said, the energy, the electrons, are in the mass of the Earth. And what lightning does is it creates a connection to unleash that energy that's already there. So actually, it appears to be top down, but it's actually bottom up. And I think that's a really good way for us to think about marketing in today's world. We can sit around a conference room with our smart agencies and say, oh, what's the viral idea? What's the hashtag? What are we going to do to go get everybody to see our message, right? Just like somebody at McDonald's went, ooh, there's one fresh thing we do. We should talk about it. And it doesn't really work always. Instead, what works is figuring out where is there already energy? What are people talking about? What do they care about? And how can I tap into that energy and harness it so that I can achieve something even bigger? I think that's what the best marketers do. And I think that that's part of the success of our panelists today. So what I want to do is lay out a quick framework that you can use to think about your marketing strategy. We break it down into 3 buckets for you. This is kind of a social driver thing we came up with that I really like. We think there's 3 ways you can think about your marketing. We call these attention, which is all about coming from the brand out to people to get your message across. We're most familiar with that. Intention, which is listening to your customers and intercepting them where they are so that you can help them complete a journey. And then lastly, mention marketing. Mention marketing is focused on word of mouth and getting the message out through other people. So attention marketing is billboards, advertising, out of home, anything that you can do to push your message out from your brand. We're all familiar with that. And of course, we're seeing that shift so much now away from physical to digital. You can see the spend go up. And on digital, it's not just websites, it's Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube. Those are what young people spend the most time on. Now, here's an example of that attention marketing. I go to the Wall Street Journal and I see a Dell ad at the top. Well, I actually was on the Dell website recently, so they're probably retargeting me based on that data. Here's an example of why it's a challenge, though, for us. We go on to CNN at the bottom, and what do we see? We see this kind of ad that is kind of scammy, right? Oh, maybe if you have one of these, you could be rich. We call that clickbait. And so one of our challenges with attention marketing is we don't want to be mixed around with that information. We don't want to be mixed with some of this negative, scammy stuff. And of course, today, I don't know about you, I'm seeing things like meal kit deliveries. There's a lot of my advertising on Instagram and other places because everybody knows we're looking for, ways to cook at home. The second type of marketing is what we call intention marketing. Intention marketing is all about where your customer is and intercepting them. The old days of that was the yellow pages, right? In the yellow pages, we turned to plumber and we saw a list of plumbers, but you'd buy an ad on that page. And it was really valuable for your business to have an ad for plumber on that page because you knew that's why people were going there. Would you pay for the same plumber ad on the mechanics page? Probably not. Not really worthwhile for you because they're not turning to the page for that reason. So today we can use search engine marketing and search engine optimization as ways to get that message across. And that might be something from when you type in a Google search like this, best meal kit, but you can see what shows up at the top here are ads. These are ads that people are paying for. We call that search engine marketing. And at the bottom, the results are what we call search engine optimization. These are really important for businesses. One of the things that's wonderful about Kraft Kombucha is if you search for something like DC Kombucha, look at that. Tanya's company shows up. You get a great profile on the right that I've zoomed in on here. You see wonderful reviews. I mean, she owns that space. And one of the things that Tanya will talk a little bit about in a second is about why she chose that name. But we can see it works really well. Now, similarly, if we look on social media and maybe we're looking for things like PPP, Manny's content shows up because he's been offering a lot of educational content around SBA loan forgiveness with the PPP program. So whether you're searching on social media or whether you're searching on the web, you can intercept people when they're expressing an intention and help them solve their problem. That's one of the things that great local businesses do. The third type of marketing is what we call mention marketing. Now, we all used to stand around the water cooler or the coffee pot back when we weren't doing everything virtually. Well, in today's world, that happens online more than ever. And so that word of mouth marketing is a really important way for us to reach out. And I want to include on here, but I'm not going to play it for you today, just in the interest of time. We have a video from Dollar Shave Club, which I think does a really good job. It was one of the first viral videos that was created as a way to get their brand message out. And you'll get the slides afterwards, so you can watch that if you haven't seen it. But it's the first time, really, we look at in marketing that a company used viral marketing as a way to get their brand out. It wasn't just, cat videos. It was something. They spent $10,000 on a video. They had thousands of new customers within a month. They sold for over $1 billion a few years later. So it's a great story. I think Lydia Soto Harman, the local CEO of Girl Scouts, does such a great job of this. She came to my office. We had a meeting. They have a selfie merit badge. She took a picture with me. She shared it. So guess what? I engaged with it. I shared it. People see what the Girl Scouts are doing. What a great way to do mention-based marketing. Get other people to share your story for you. Another good example of this is what we see Allison Roman, the celebrity chef, doing. When people make her recipes on Instagram and tag her, she actually shares that as part of her story. Well, what does that do? It causes more people to want to take pictures of her food and share the food. And so it creates this virtuous cycle. And now she's one of the best selling authors in the cookbook authors in the United States. So let me just flip forward here to just final this, and I want to turn it quickly to a case study I have before the examples of something happening in the DC local business community. So just to recap, we have that attention marketing, the right message to the right people at the right time. That comes from your brand. The intention marketing, that's the other way around. You're intercepting people. And then lastly, the mention-based marketing is how do you get people to share your story for you? I don't know how many of you have seen this place in DC. You might have walked by on New Hampshire Avenue and seen this beautiful Victorian mansion. Well, this is called the Highrick House Mansion, also known as the Brewmaster's Castle. And one of the things that they've done is every Christmas, they have a Christmas market with small businesses to feature their goods and services, and it's extremely popular. So one of the things that they decided to do during COVID was to try to help small businesses through an online Christmas market in April. And so first thing they did, they caught the attention of the thousands of email subscribers they had by sending an email out that has an animated GIF, tells the story. You can see another email to the right that shows all the different products they're featuring. They got some media attention, so they get this WJLA to mention them and talk about them. Go to Google, search for DC Christmas Market, because maybe you don't remember Highrick House, but you saw this on the news. Guess what? Their Facebook event, their Washington lobbyist.com page that featured them and others show up as the top results. So their media coverage and their Facebook actually contributed to that intention marketing and their Google results. You can see here they use social media, and they didn't make up their own hashtag that nobody would have followed. They used the Shop Small Saturday hashtag that thousands of people were following so that people would find this market. And as a result of all their efforts, their partners, their vendors, and members of the community shared about the Christmas market in April on social media. Lots of buzz. The result was 1,000+ supporters, $33,000 in revenue for small businesses. So you can see here how even a small nonprofit with a handful of staff can engage a local community through that attention, intention, and mention marketing. So there's some lessons here. I won't read through all this. Again, we'll share the slides with you, but it summarizes some of our takeaways about that. And I think what's so great about what Manny and Tanya are doing is their marketing really fits in to the best practices and this framework. So what I want to do is start out by asking Manny and Tanya to tell us a little bit more about each of their stories and how they use marketing. And I'm going to unshare my screen to make it a little bit easier for us to all see each other. So let me do that. Great. Manny, why don't you start us off and just tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you use marketing for your business and how you use those strategies and really what maybe is the most important strategy for your own business.
Yeah, so my name is Manny Cosme. I'm the founder of CFO Services Group. We are a management accounting firm focused on bookkeeping and CFO strategy for small businesses and nonprofits. So I posted this morning, of course, about this event. I try to be really up on my social media, but I always tell people, you know, I may be an accountant, but I am a business owner first and foremost. And with the business owner comes marketing. You have to market your business. If you don't market your business, you're never going to get anywhere. You're never going to grow. So I've spent a lot of time over the last, 20 years or so, really educating myself on marketing. I went to college to learn accounting. And then I spent the last 20 years figuring out how to actually market an accounting service. So it's definitely not something that came naturally to me, but something I had to learn. I guess, yeah, what specifically did you want me to address? I mean, I could talk about marketing all day long. It's so vital.
Yeah. I'd love, you've been using LinkedIn a lot to get your message out through your educational content. And I think that's a really good place to start because we have to remember that a lot of times our customers are people who already know us. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about how you've done that.
Yeah, so, social media obviously is incredibly important in a marketing strategy. I'll be honest, I've struggled with it a bit to try to find my footing in social media. I'm happy to say I finally found it. The reason why is because, and I think, when Tanya speaks, you're going to hear, it's really great that you have both of us on the panel because she's marketing a product, which is very different than marketing a service and certainly a professional service to other business owners. it's really difficult, in my opinion, to get traction on a social media platform with a service like mine, because it's very heavy, right? There's a lot of information out there. It's not fun in a sense, right? It's not like, oh, look at the pretty colors or anything. Like it's heavy information. And so my challenge has always been, how do I break through to grab people's attention, to really get them to, hey, pay attention, you need this service and this is why you need it. So LinkedIn has been really great, but Facebook has actually been really great about that as well. And one thing that you just mentioned on your previous slide, which is really the key to what we do and what I do in marketing, which is something I had to learn, is I really go after branding myself first and then branding my company. That's something that I had to learn how to shift, because a few years ago, I was focused on how do I get my company, CFO Services Group, out there in the social media space. And I realized after a while, it just wasn't working, because Anthony, as you just said, people are less interested in brands nowadays than in the person. So I've shifted my whole marketing strategy to, how do I put myself personally as the expert out there, and then let that lead people into the brand. That has worked very, very well, I'll say. So.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Manny. Now, Tanya, you're a little bit different because you're a retail business, so you sell direct to consumer as well as B2B to other businesses. I think it's really interesting how you thought about your company name as part of your strategy. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah. So my company is Kraft Kombucha Mount Pleasant. And at the time when I started, not a lot of people knew about kombucha. And I had a love for craft beer. Craft beer is an entire category. And since I was creating flavors and styles similar to craft beer, and I like the way craft beer was just the whole community of it, and kombucha didn't really have that. It was very small, it was very hippie, and the reputation was, that stuff tastes disgusting. And so I wanted to mimic that culture. So I actually grabbed the domain Kraft Kombucha. And I did it just because I liked the concept. It was never really going to be the final name, but since it was a general, it was available. So I took it. And then the way I started my company was through meeting people through my dog Guinness. So unfortunately, this is not Guinness. This is his sister Bucha. And I thought to myself, the way I started my company, which was accidentally making 15 gallons of kombucha and then giving it away to people I met through Guinness, it made sense to have him on the logo. And so I feel that the actual name, the search mechanism, and I think that Anthony so well brought that up just in terms of how people find you, was not really what I knew that would help me in terms of people finding me, but I knew that in terms of branding, what would stand out would be the visual, would be the way we communicated and the story behind the brand and the visual of the dog.
Yeah, I mean, the brand's great. And I think that you've done a great job combining that term that people use, right? Somebody wants kombucha, they're looking for kombucha, you show up, but then bringing the personality through with your mascot. Can you talk a little bit about how you use marketing to reach other businesses who distribute your product? Because that's obviously different from going direct to consumer, Tanya.
Yeah, so we were at first direct to consumer. And as Manny mentioned, when you have a product, especially when it has a dog on it, people get excited. If you have a cool brand or you have a nice visual and a fun story, we were also interested in going to business to business. And but also as a small business, and a lot of you here are launching businesses or have small business, you don't have a pretty extensive marketing budget. And so when we started to attract some business to business inquiries, a strategy was, okay, what's a great business to partner with that would help us with our marketing? Since they have great marketing budgets, they have certain reputations, like us partnering them would be something that would elevate our brand or show us the types of businesses that we partner with. So for instance, we partnered with Think Food Group. That's Jose Andres' restaurant group. And they have an incredible marketing team. They took beautiful pictures. And so we were able to ride on their brand. And there's several other brands like Union Market. That was where our bar was, or is. Right now it's currently shut down. But they have incredible branding. They have a great reputation. And they also have the marketing budgets to take beautiful pictures and to spread the word out about us when we don't have that budget. So that's just a great way to go about it, really thinking about what your brand is to you. And I guess it's the intention marketing. And then through partnerships, then people can find you when they're looking for other brands.
Yeah, I love how you all done that. It's so smart to be able to get those partners to help you enhance your marketing because you have things to offer that they don't, and vice versa. We even have a question up. What does it take to partner with a bigger brand? I think when you think of Think Food Group and Jose Andres, such a powerhouse brand, what does it take to build that type of a partnership, Tanya?
Those ones it just came to me. I think the very first big partnership we had was Union Market. They took a chance on us. You find one really strong brand or strong company that really believes in you, not necessarily like, oh, I like kombucha, we'll take any kombucha, we'll take the cheapest one. They actually believe in you and your story. And then they give you a platform for you to share. And through me being in Union Market, there are a lot of chefs and beverage directors that come frequent there. And the buyer from Think Food Group and one of the sourcing people and just knew our brand and could actually experience it. So it's just really being yourself, and then you'll be able to attract that. But it really just starts with one really good one. And I think there's a tendency not to focus and to just be like, oh, let's go everywhere. But when you're a small business, you don't have the bandwidth, and spreading yourself thin sometimes just makes it like you could go a little crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
That's actually like a really big strategy for us as well. Because exactly what Tanya is saying is like being able to partner with other organizations that maybe have a stronger marketing budget is so vital to your success. It also brings you credibility, which is really great. So like we do that a lot, like, doing stuff like this or partnering with the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber or other organizations in the area. And I'll go back to like, that's why your personal brand is so important, because people are going to connect with you first. Like Anthony reached out to me personally to ask me to be on this, right? He didn't reach out to CFO Services Group. He reached out to me because he sees me active. And people will reach out to me personally to be, hey, do you want to do this and whatnot. I'll also say I'm pretty shameless about asking. I'll go to organizations, be like, hey, do you need this? Do you need this? Like, I'm an expert here. Let me know what you need from me. We're happy to help out. So that really helps. And then leveraging social media to do that becomes so important. Even just commenting on people's posts, like other people I know, just commenting on their posts or liking it or resharing it, it puts you on their radar, which is really helpful.
Manny, along those lines, we have a great question about how do you manage your own social media and online presence? Do you use software? Do you have team members? It looks to me like you do quite a bit yourself. So can you talk to us a little bit about what that looks like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can tell you, I tried it all. I have hired people to try to do social media. It doesn't work. So this is what I'll say. Again, let's make the distinction between your personal brand and your business brand. So for my business brand, I actually do have someone manage that. Okay, so I do have someone kind of more on top of that and doing regular posting and whatnot on the business side of the world. On the personal side, obviously I do that all myself because again, the intention of social media is to create a personal connection between people. right? So if you have someone else do it for you, it just doesn't come across as genuine and it just doesn't work. And I've tried it before. And at the end of the day, I just had to suck it up and say, you know what, I just need to be more intentional about doing this. And so I do. And so every day, I actually have a goal every day to post something on all 3 social media platforms, you know, which for me is Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I actually have put it into my calendar that every morning as part of like my morning routine, like, can I post something, right? And oftentimes what I'll do to connect myself to my business brand is just repost something from my CFO page onto my personal page, right? Or something from one of my other strategic partners, I'll find one of their posts and maybe reshare that or something. So that's how I kind of bridge the gap. But yeah, personally, you got to do it yourself. Yeah.
And I want to follow up on that, Manny, because you mentioned, first, I love that you do it daily. All of our data tells us that your content will be seen by more people if you do that regularly, because it tells LinkedIn that you're active and they start to show your content to more people. But you mentioned it's not always original content. Sometimes you'll share other people's content. You'll engage with, comment on others. Tell us about that, because I think so many business owners think everything's about them posting and they forget that they can share other people's content or comment on it instead.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, it's all about building your partnerships, right? You want to be a resource, but you want to also show people that, there are other resources out there, and can you connect? Can you be a part of that network as well? So, like Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber, I happen to also be a board member of that. I'm the treasurer. So I obviously am always looking for, can I repost stuff about that? Equality Chamber of Commerce, I'm also the treasurer on that board. So obviously resharing stuff like that. But also the other, amazing resources we have here in DC. Not only does it help to bring information to people, which is really great, because they may, like, I'm paying attention to stuff that you may not be paying attention to, just because this is my focus. So I may end up posting something that you're like, oh, wow, I didn't even catch that. Yeah. But again, from a strategic standpoint, it also helps to build a stronger partnership. People appreciate when you share their stuff. I appreciate it when people share my stuff. You all are free to share our CFO Services Group stuff at any time. I'll give everyone permission on this discussion to do that. I mean, I appreciate it. So, it's really helpful.
You mentioned some of the great resources in DC. I'd like to ask you both, maybe you can start, Manny. What are some of the resources? You mentioned the 2 chambers that you're involved with. But other, someone has asked in the questions, other agencies that allowed you to help meet potential clients. Obviously, WDCP has amazing resources for all of us. Can you talk a little bit about the resources you've used in your business over the last 8 years? And then Tanya, we'd love to hear from you on that too.
Sure. I mean, look, I'll say number one, chambers of commerces. Absolutely, all day, every day, your chamber, whatever your chamber is that you want to identify with or be a part of, that is your resource. So I'm the treasurer of the Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I'm the treasurer of the Equality Chamber of Commerce. I'm so involved in these 2 chambers because I get so much out of them, resource-wise, connection-wise, socially, just everything across the board. As Nicole mentioned earlier, they have some fantastic resources. So your chamber really is your number one source. If you're not a part of a chamber, join one today. WDCEP, of course, the DSLBD, they're also the small business organization here. Obviously, they're a big resource. They do a lot of workshops. We've done some stuff with them before. WAKIF, the Washington Area Community Investment Fund, they provide capital to small businesses and they have accelerator programs. We partner with them quite a bit. LEDC, the Latino Economic Development Center or Council. Obviously, we do a lot with them as well. So, I mean, there's just so many fantastic resources here in DC. We really are resource rich in this city. It's quite amazing for such a small city, how many resources we have.
Absolutely. What about you, Tanya? What resources have you used that you'd recommend?
Let's see. There's a lot of directions I think that I had gone in. A good resource for me has been, especially being in this entrepreneur world, it can feel very lonely. It can feel like nobody really understands the stress that you're going through. They think you have this fabulous life of making decisions on your own, waking up when you want to. Like I appear now that I'm on vacation with my dog. But finding a tribe of people going through these same ups and downs. It's not the same as going to a 9-to-5 job. So I have groups that I'm part of that are entrepreneurs in lots of different, who have lots of different companies. That's how Manny and I met. We are members of Entrepreneurs Organization. I also like to spend time with women entrepreneurs. So within my own neighborhood in Mount Pleasant, there are a lot of women that we're a little community of entrepreneurs that support each other. And then I also engage with entrepreneurs in my industry. And that's there are a lot of food events and local, like I also like to be within the local small business community. And those have been great because, as I said, like it's an adventure. It's a roller coaster. I'm sure Manny's, we know, we were nodding our head. And it's important to be around people who understand that. Because I think sometimes we tend to go to like our parents or our best friends, and people don't really know the ups and downs and the feeling of instability, and that a lot of people see the glamour of what we're posting on social media. So I think that's been really, really helpful. And also leaning on your partners who have been doing it longer. You know, they're more established. It's amazing how supportive your partners can be because they remember when they were you a lot of times. You know, a small business starting out, and a lot of times they chose you because you're on the rise and you're someone exciting to be working with. So I think that's good to know.
Yeah. Tanya, you just mentioned kind of the glamorous things we see posted on social media. And I wanted to just ask you to answer the question Manny answered earlier, which is how do you manage the presence when you have so many things going on? How do you, what's your workflow?
So when I started, I was a solopreneur. So that means I did everything. And the key thing just when you're starting as a brand is what's great about social media is it's free. So we had Twitter, we had Facebook, and we had a newsletter and Instagram. And then I just sort of did all of that. And then through the response, you see which is actually the most effective. So that's really great because you actually treat each social media or every connection to your customer a little differently, like Instagram. And I think that was something that I had to learn. It's not that you take one message and you just do that exact same message throughout the board, because you're actually communicating in different ways through those things, through those different platforms. So at first it was just me, and it was, the best of my abilities, not perfect photography. But what I found is that if you're just telling a story about what's happening, that's really what people want to know. And Manny said it, and you said it as well, is as a small business, people like to see the genuine story and what's authentic. And even now, as we are about to scale up to another level, investors and people who are looking to help us go that direction, that's what they want to know, the story from the beginning. So when you're communicating through social media, I wouldn't, especially if it's coming from you, I wouldn't overthink it. I would put out what's sincere, and then soon you'll be like, soon after, I brought on an assistant and I brought on people who can manage my social media. And then it's also easy to explain, like, this is the brand, this is what we're going to put out. And then they'll continue what you want to put out, or they'll continue the message with the brand. So, and then I think that sometimes, there are brands out there that follow bigger brands and you feel like you should mimic what they're doing. Some of it's not real, like their skin is not that clear. Like, the lighting is not that, it's not real. And I think that your genuine customers, the ones who actually pay money to use your services, to buy your product, those are the real important. I think that's what's a little confusing about social media sometimes, is you think just because that person has 10,000 followers, that if they drink or use your service, that will translate to the actual dollars that you will get in your pocket. And you'd be surprised. It's actually that, mother of 4 who their whole family drinks kombucha. And so she's convinced all her neighbors to drink kombucha. And now you have an incredible piece of marketing that is actually giving you money. So, and it's sincere. And I think that's sometimes what is confusing about social media.
Yeah, I mentioned marketing, the word of mouth, online and offline. As you're talking about social media, something that you two have in common, Manny, is that you both are chief executives who are very identified in your role with the business. So many people know the business, know you. We have a question about how do you balance marketing yourself versus marketing your business, and kind of looking at that, how marketing yourself can help your business, but how do you balance those two and your own personal presence? So maybe Tanya, you want to start on that, and then we'll have Manny answer it.
The marketing of yourself, I in the beginning, I was resistant to it, but I saw that it's part of the story. And then I always kind of wanted the focus to be on my dog. And then I realized, people also want to know, the dog can't talk. Although I felt like the dog was the symbol. I started doing what Manny also does, is I educate and I teach. And I think that that's also important. Especially if you're trying to innovate or you're trying to introduce a new concept like kombucha in a fine dining restaurant, or international flavors, or something that is not already out there. You have to explain, and marketing is also explaining something new and getting people on board and getting people excited. And I know that that's something that Manny and I talked, because he's like, accounting doesn't automatically seem that sexy at first, but he's made it interesting. And especially now, this is what people are looking for, to be educated. And I know that I look to Manny is posting, especially at this time with all the PPP stuff going on. So just how do I manage that? I have incredible staff. The people that you surround yourself with, the people that you hire, and also the customers, the mention marketing, that is of the utmost importance. And then I can also do what I need to do, but you can't, you get to a point where you can't do it alone.
Manny, what do you say? What do you have to say?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Again, I always just say, remember that people buy people like that. They want you. They don't buy the brand, they buy you first. As long as they like you, then they'll buy the brand, right? So always kind of lead with that. So as I said, over the years, as I've refined my marketing, I do lead more with myself now. Look, I mean, if you hire us to do your accounting work, I'm not going to be personally doing it. Like, I have a team of accountants, right? But it's the trust and the rapport that we build. That what I did was set up a brand for my company and a value for my company. That comes from me personally. That trickles down through the rest of the company. So what you see from me is really a reflection of the brand of my company, CFO Services Group. So if you can buy into me, then you understand that will translate into the services that you get. So it's very important that you really lead with yourself, I think. Other than that, I do, again, make the distinction between my personal brand and the company brand. They're not necessarily the same, right? We do them differently, but they feed into each other, and that's what's important.
Yeah. I think a lot of times folks wonder, when you're spending so much time, you do this every day, Manny, people want to know, how do you measure success? How do you know it's working? How do you know it's worth you spending time posting on different social media platforms every single day?
Number of
And you're a numbers person, right?
Sales will lie. No,
yeah. So how do you know? How do you measure success? What are the like different things you look at?
No, I mean, obviously sales, of course, right? You want to see, and we do have, like, you know, as we've grown, we've gotten a little bit more sophisticated in being able to measure our marketing efforts and whatnot. So, I mean, we do have like Google Analytics running. We have on Facebook, we have our, you know, Facebook pixels installed. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. But we, you know, we have all the analytics set up behind the scenes, so we can see kind of where people are coming from. If they land on our website, you know, where did they come from? So we can see that. But forgetting all that, one, are we growing? Of course, are we getting more clients? That's obviously really telling. But also, you can just kind of tell yourself, you know, what influence you're having. Like, I, you know, started getting asked to do things like this, panels and whatnot. So people started to see me as the expert in the field. That also became very telling. So you can tell, you can get a sense without looking at all the data, whether the marketing is working. And I will say, one piece of advice I would give out there along those lines, and Tanya mentioned it a little earlier, is, you know, when you market your company, don't necessarily market to get the client themselves. I think that's really important. Sometimes you want to market to get the influencers to pay attention to you. And so a lot of the marketing that we do is actually really centered on that as well. I'm not necessarily interested in getting you as a client, because that's a little harder, right? And I use the analogy of fishing, right? I can go fishing and I can catch one fish, or I can grab a net and catch a whole bunch of fish. So I'd rather kind of target the influencers who I know can bring the bulk of the clients with us. So that's who I'm looking at when I market, and that's the intention that I use there.
Tanya, what about you? How do you measure success of your marketing efforts?
I think when I have the ability to choose my partners, or the partners just come to me. So where the marketing, what you put out there is actually bringing the customers, bringing the partners to you, based on what you put out there, versus you having to take the extra effort to pitch people or to sit down and try and convince someone to be your partner. You know, they already see. He's taking off right now. He's bored.
No.
So that I see when the specific partner that I want, like for instance, a really wonderful, talented chef just contacted me about partnering, and I'm honored. But that was that's how I see what I've done is successful. Where I was like, oh, I didn't have to go and like persuade him or anything like that. That we are able to, based on what we've put out there, to attract what we want. We can choose. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, there's where as Manny said, you know, you can't go fishing and take all the fish. You know, so you, especially with a small business, it's overwhelming. So to be able to get the right people to buy your products, get the right partners and all that stuff, I think that is crucial.
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about there, you know, a great word for that's reputation, right? You can really use your marketing and your social media to build a reputation so that you do attract those partners, right? So that they're coming to you. And that's kind of what I think we try to show with the McDonald's example, is that, you know, even though they're telling the truth, we just don't believe it because the reputation says that
yeah,
it's not fresh, right? And so our reputation matters. And with the small business, the reputation of, you know, the principals, the leaders of the business, and if they're out there teaching and helping people like you both do so much. We just have a couple minutes left. I'd just love to wrap with one final question, which is, I'm sure you get this a lot. People reach out to you because you have successful businesses and they're just getting started. They're where you were 8 years ago. And they want to know, what advice do you have for somebody like me who's getting started, who's about to launch a business, or who's just one person? What have you learned? You know, what would you do differently? So Tanya, maybe you can just start us off and then we'll go to Manny. What's that advice that you have when people come? I know you get asked that question. So what do you say?
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding. I'd say, don't necessarily do it for the money. I mean, there's a certain, if we're talking specifically about, you know, entrepreneurship and sharing something that you can do or provide or make, it's a part of you. And someone said to me, an entrepreneur, because I asked the same question, it's just like something like it's like chewing glass. And if you can chew the glass, or so, I can't remember. It's a great quote, but I think it does seem glamorous, and to have your own business and to control your own schedule. But there's a certain amount of stress. And the thing is, I would never, ever discourage someone to do it, because you're basically would be discouraging them not to follow their dream. So I try to just say, just do it. And when you do it with your whole body and your whole heart, you'll get through it, and the right people will come and help you. But yeah, just go for it. Just one life.
Put your heart into it, which you certainly have, which we can all see in your work and your brand. Manny, what about you? What advice do you have for folks who come and ask you?
Hire an accountant. First thing you do. No. Yes, you should. No, actually, you should really surround yourself with professionals. Like, don't go at it alone. As Tanya said, it's difficult. So definitely surround yourself with people that you can ask. And by the way, that does not mean you have to spend money on it. As we mentioned, you know, there's a lot of great resources that you have here in DC. Like we provide technical assistance under certain programs. So we actually provide free accounting services for businesses. You just have to go to the organizations and ask them, and they can pair you with us, right? So stuff like that. I will also say, since we're talking about marketing, do not skimp on your sales and marketing. If I had to give another piece of advice, that is something that I see most small businesses, that's where they fail, is they focus too much on the fulfillment of what they're providing, which obviously is important, but don't forget that this is a business and you need to fuel that growth. So sales and marketing, that's the fuel that's going to get you to where you need to get. If you don't do that, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, and I think what we've heard from each of you is that marketing starts with people you know and trust, you know, people who trust you and you already have relationships, and goes out. So it's not about broadcasting yourself to the world. It's, you know, building up where you have it. When people ask me about starting a business, one of the things I say is do it in the District of Columbia, because I think it is honestly the best place in the country to start a business and have a successful business. And I think WDCEP is one of the organizations that makes that true. So we're very grateful to them for all of the amazing resources that they have. Well, with that, why don't I turn it back to Prayas, who can close us out if you have anything.
All right. Well, thank you guys. This was such an amazing discussion. I felt like, you know, I could stay here for another hour just listening to you guys talk about your journey to being successful entrepreneurs in DC. And Anthony, I feel like, you know, marketing often at time, I feel like is very complicated. There's so much going on, but just hearing your presentation felt like, for the first time, I felt like I get it. You know, it can be simple enough where I feel like I can try it myself. So thank you so much for pulling that together and really grounding us in the knowledge that we need to be successful. And Manny and Tanya, I mean, we as the organization, just District of Columbia, we're a big fan of your business and love all the work you have done, not only in terms of your own business, but supporting the business community overall. So thank you so much. And thank you for being on the panel today. So this pretty much concludes our bit chat for today. I wish we had longer, but after today's bit chat, we'll send you an email with a link of the webinar as well as a survey. So if you could please let us know what you thought about the panelists, about the WDCP, we would greatly appreciate it. And feel free to reach out to us, whether it is the partnership or Greater Washington Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Hive 2.0. We are here as a resource to support you. We want to see you grow in the city. So just feel free to reach out to us if there's anything we can do. And lastly, remember, we have one more bid chat, two more bid chat coming up, but one later in July. So July 29th, mergers and acquisitions at 1 p.m. You should have a link to register for the bid chat on the chat window. And I hope you'll join us for that session. And with that, have a wonderful afternoon. And thank you to the panelists who were amazing today.
Thank you.
Everyone, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.